When you hear the term YouTuber, what's the first thing to come to mind? Maybe someone who does Let's Play games, or sketch comedy skits, or some other miscellaneous shit. You watch YouTubers to be entertained, have fun, or sometimes even be educated. Sometimes you'll come across one of the funniest things you've ever seen on the internet, or one of the dumbest. But one initial thought I guarantee no one automatically has would be, dang, I bet that person can make a huge horror movie. And yet, here we are living in a time where many big YouTubers are taking a crack at directing horror movies, and many of them have gone on to leave lasting impacts on worldwide audiences. And especially this year in particular, we're looking at some insane record-breaking films, and it's all thanks to the rise of YouTuber horror movies. So come along with me as we look at the major impact YouTubers have made in the horror genre over the last couple of years, and see what the future of YouTube horror movies looks like. Also, be sure to subscribe to the channel and like this video, and if you do all of that, then you are officially groovy. So first off, let's go over some notable examples that help contribute to this YouTuber horror movie boom. I would say that this modern wave of YouTube horror directors really kicked off thanks to twin brothers Danny and Michael Philippou, aka the creators of the Australian comedy YouTube channel Raka Raka. These guys became well known for their sketch comedy and having a weird obsession with including Ronald McDonald in a lot of their videos. But they were popular for sure, with a lot of them gaining over 10 million views or more. Then things changed in 2023 when they released their directorial debut, Talk to Me, a movie following a group of teenagers that can talk to spirits through a severed hand. So on the surface, it may seem rather odd for the guys who made such classics like Harry Potter vs. Star Wars and Don't Touch the Cookie Monster's Cookies to make a more serious supernatural horror movie, but it ended up turning out for the best because not only did it do insanely well with critics, but it went on to gross $92 million against a $4.5 million budget, making it one of A24's largest openings at the time. And it was the first sign that got people saying, wait, people of this caliber can make this shit? Next person I want to talk about is Chris Stuckmann. And I bet some of you are thinking, oh god, not this guy, but let me explain. Now Chris Stuckmann is one of the most popular movie critics on YouTube, and he was really one of the pioneers of YouTube film criticism. Given how many movies he's reviewed over the years, he obviously has an insane knowledge when it comes to how movies are made and all the techniques that go into making them. This love of movie making really came into fruition in 2002 when Stuckmann saw the movie Signs for the first time. That was the movie that sparked his interest in becoming a filmmaker, and he'd go on to make no-budget films with nothing but his friends and a camera that he got from his mom. His actual directorial debut would come in 2025 with Shelby Oaks, which out of all the movies on here was the worst performing both critically and box office wise, with a lot of people calling it out for being too heavy on the cliches and its disjointed story. So why am I including this? Well, in 2021 when Shelby Oaks was announced, Chris Stuckmann launched a Kickstarter to help this movie get made, with the initial goal being around $250,000. Well, it vastly exceeded those expectations and made around $1.3 million, making it the largest funded horror movie on Kickstarter, with a total of 14,720 backers, including yours truly. I'm so cool, guys. Listen, say what you want about Shelby Oaks and its flaws, which it is definitely not without, but there's something kind of beautiful about this longtime film nerd who wanted to be like his heroes finally get to live his dream. Good on you, Stuckmann. Now guys like the Raka Raka duo and Chris Stuckmann definitely have their cult followings, but neither of them have made an insane impact on the YouTube world compared to the one and only Markiplier. From being that guy with one of the most iconic YouTuber intros of all time,
hello everybody, my name is Markiplier,
to giving us the legendary Bite of 87 moment.
Was that the Bite of 87?
Mark Fishbach, and yes, that's his actual real name. No, it does not say Markiplier on his birth certificate. But anyways, he's by far one of the biggest titans on YouTube, primarily thanks to his gaming Let's Plays. But one of his Let's Plays would change his life forever. In 2022, Markiplier made a video of the independent horror game Iron Lung, released that same year. And it was that moment where a little creature took over his brain and said to him, "You're gonna make this movie into an independent film adaptation." And sure enough, that's what we got 4 years later with the Iron Lung movie. And as I'm sure many of you may know this, it wasn't originally supposed to get a massive theatrical release, especially given how ambitious this project was. It was at first going to be put in about 50 theaters total, but growing online hype dramatically expanded the release to over thousands of theaters across the world. And not only that, it ended up grossing over $50 million worldwide. All the more impressive knowing Markiplier self-financed the movie himself. And if you didn't know, it's incredibly rare for self-financed movies to get wide releases like this. I think this one's the biggest example of the creator in question being the biggest draw of the movie. Markiplier is one of the most beloved YouTubers on the platform, so having the opportunity to see him on the big screen is going to get a lot of people's attention, mainly his large fan base. Personally, I never grew up watching his content, nor have I ever played the Iron Lung game, but I will say the main reason why I went to see it in the theater was because of Markiplier. If he wasn't the main star, I probably would have skipped out on this. It's kind of like the whole celebrity advertising phenomenon, where kids are gonna buy more Sprite cranberries just because LeBron James is in the commercials or something like that. But the movie worked out well since it not only catered to a lot of Markiplier fans, but also fans of indie horror games. A lot of younger audiences first experience horror through video games, so combining these two elements is definitely what led to the movie's success the most. So obviously it's pretty clear YouTubers are helping keep the horror genre afloat lately, but that's especially been the case within the last couple of weeks, because Curry Barker didn't just make a horror movie about a girl who goes madly insane for a guy because he broke a stick in half. He made one of the most historical movies of the last decade. Just like the Raka Raka duo, Curry Barker is mainly known for getting his start as a comedian, creating the sketch comedy channel That's a Bad Idea, which he co-runs with Cooper Tomlinson. But within the past few years, the two started branching out into the horror genre with a few short films as well as the hour-long feature uploaded to YouTube, Milk and Cereal. But it was the recent box office marvel Obsession that really cemented Barker's career as a filmmaker. Obsession was only made for about $750,000, but word of mouth after it premiered at the Toronto International Film Festival in 2025 really got people talking. And as it got closer to its official release, it was getting hyped the f up by everyone, making it one of the most talked about movies of the whole year. Hell, it's still getting hyped by everyone right now. My entire social media timeline has been mostly posts about Obsession. It's insane. Thanks to all the reactions spreading online, Obsession was able to make over $100 million at the worldwide box office, about 100 times more than its budget. I don't think I've ever seen a feat like this for a horror movie since maybe Paranormal Activity. Oh, and get ready because it gets way more insane than that. There was a point where Obsession was making more money than the Mandalorian movie. And mind you, Obsession came out the weekend before that movie, during a time in which it should have expected a drop in ticket sales. But no, it actually had an increase in that. Obsession made more money in its second weekend than it did in its first weekend, which is extremely rare for any movie to pull off, let alone a horror movie. And you're not gonna believe me when I say this, but folks, it somehow gets even crazier. Because what if I told you that its third weekend outperformed its second weekend? The last time we saw a movie pull something off like this was back in 1982 with E.T. You know, one of the most famous blockbusters ever made. Holy shit. And honestly, it's absolutely deserved. I've now seen the movie 3 times in the theater, which, no joke, makes it the first movie in my entire life that I've seen at least 3 times in the theater. That's how impactful this movie has been. And with the massive turnout of Obsession, Barker now has 2 massive gigs in the work right now. And mind you, he's only 26 years old. To have this much power in the film industry at such a young age is wild. But guess what? He's not the youngest person taking over the horror genre right now, as that would go to visual effects creator Kane Parsons. If you don't know, this guy is primarily known for his unique visual art style and creepy animations. And in 2019, a little image made its way onto the internet that would go on to be known as the Backrooms. Kane saw this image and was like, fuck it, I'm gonna turn this into a web series. And that's exactly what he did. And boy did that shit blow up big time. So Kane decided to expand upon this lore with a film adaptation that just came out this past weekend. And I'm assuming by its box office numbers that you've definitely seen this movie already, because in its opening weekend, The Backrooms was projected to earn a whopping $80 million, placing it among the top 5 biggest horror opening weekends of all time. All all because of a goofy ass image that randomly spawned online in the late 2010s. If there was any horror movie that should thank its success to the internet, it's The Backrooms. Not only that, it puts Kane Parsons as the youngest director to top the domestic box office ever at just 20 years old. This guy is only a few months younger than I am, and he's already become a filmmaking juggernaut. Good lord. More power to you, man. So with all the examples we just went over, how are YouTubers all of a sudden dominating horror movies right now? I think one of the big reasons is that making YouTube content has a ton of similarities to actual filmmaking. Movies rely on intriguing concepts, how they're presented, how they're edited, and how the audiences engage with them. Those exact things coincide with YouTube videos, and there's little connections you can make between the two. For example, you could view a YouTube thumbnail as the equivalent of a movie poster, since both of those include standout visuals that help grab the viewer's attention. In fact, I kind of view the process of making my videos like I'm making a movie. Usually I first write a script like the one you're hearing right now, aka pre-production, then I do voiceover, which is production, and then I edit the video, which is post-production. Obviously all YouTube videos come in multiple different formats, so these rules aren't going to apply to all of them, but it can come in handy for a lot of content creators, myself included. But some of the aforementioned YouTubers we talked about are also film buffs, and have always intended to make movies from the very beginning. If you read Raka Raka's YouTube bio, it says wannabe filmmakers on a rampage. Curry Barker moved to Los Angeles to go to film school, which is where he ended up meeting Cooper Tomlinson, and the two ended up dropping out to pursue filmmaking. And Chris Stuckmann, I mean, need I say more? Now the real question is, why are all these YouTubers shifting to horror specifically? Well, for one, horror movies are usually cost effective to make and don't require big budgets. All the movies I mentioned earlier were all made for less than $10 million. I mean, hell, Obsession was made for less than $1 million. Lower budgets not only lead to more creative freedom, since big Hollywood executives won't be breathing down your neck like a bloodthirsty grizzly bear, but they also would be less likely to deal with financial risk. This is why a lot of iconic filmmakers we know and love today also started in the horror genre. James Gunn, who made Slither, Peter Jackson, who made Bad Taste, and Sam Raimi, who made The Evil Dead. But especially as we've seen over the last couple of years, a lot of YouTube horror movies actually ended up being financial juggernauts, which leads to my other main point as to why horror was the best choice for YouTubers to start their filmmaking journey. Horror may just be as popular on the internet than it is in movies right now. Thanks to the rise of things such as analog horror, creepypastas, and SCPs, it helped open the genre to plenty of younger audiences. I mean, hell, Backrooms literally got its start in that niche. But also the internet in general is gaining everybody's attention. With all these social media platforms like Instagram and Letterboxd, word of mouth for certain movies gets spread a lot quicker than it did in the days of legends like George Romero and Wes Craven. Listen, I can go on and on about all these significant factors contributing to this YouTube horror movie phenomenon, but the fact of the matter is that it's pretty clear that YouTube and horror go together like peanut butter and jelly, and fans of both niches are being drawn together to see all these movies in the theaters, and thus resulting in more crowded theaters. My screenings for Obsession and The Backrooms were the two most packed screenings I went to this year that weren't free screenings. More crowded than Project Hail Mary, more crowded than Scream 7, and more crowded than Michael. In fact, just thought I'd share this real quick. This is what my first screening of Obsession looked like, and my first screening of The Backrooms. As you can see, they were very packed screenings. Now in contrast, here's a screening for The Mandalorian that happened around the same time as The Backrooms at the same theater. Literally completely dead for a Star Wars movie. And to top it all off, here's what the box office looked like over the last weekend, with Backrooms and Obsession taking the top 2 spots. And it's all powered by a combination of previous recognition, creativity, and knowledge of film. And it's why it's the true pinnacle of why YouTubers are crushing it in the horror genre lately. So one last thing I want to end on is what the future of YouTube horror movies is going to look like. And based on these recent numbers, it's looking incredibly promising. I think these guys are going to motivate younger folks to get into filmmaking someday. A lot of people my age look up to these guys as idols, and with their success making horror movies right now, we might see an increase of successful independent horror movies, and I could not be more thrilled about that. Maybe one day I could see myself working on a horror movie, and that could be an opportunity of a lifetime. Plus, Hollywood is probably going to finally give YouTubers the recognition they deserve as the new generation of filmmakers, which is a wild thing to reflect on, but at the same time, it's really cool. The internet and YouTube is as big as it can ever be right now, and it's only gonna get bigger. And with that comes more inspired filmmakers looking to make it big. But now that YouTubers are making a big splash in the movie industry, it's gonna open the doors for a lot of newcomers. Maybe we'll see content creators like Dead Meat or Meat Canyon make their feature film debuts in the next couple of years. YouTubers aren't outsiders of the film industry anymore. They're officially the real deal now. These guys are changing the definition of who gets to make movies nowadays. If you're a creator with a camera and an editing program, you have the chance to build an online fan base and eventually take it a step forward and make a global box office hit. The new era of horror filmmakers is here, folks, and it all started on this flawed but iconic platform known as YouTube. Anyways, what's your guys' thoughts on the rise of YouTuber horror movies? Are you an aspiring filmmaker who's now even more motivated to get out there and pursue their dream of filmmaking? Also, if you've seen any YouTuber directed horror movies, which one was your favorite? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. Anyways, that's all I got for you guys today. See ya.